Hi, church. A few weeks ago, we announced some changes that are going to be coming up in January of 2023 with our service format. And I just wanted to take a few moments to let you know a little bit more about what that's going to look like. Basically, we're going to be shifting from our current service times, which are 8 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and 10:30 a.m., to just two services, which will be at 8:30 and 10 a.m., with Sunday classes and worship services happening concurrently during both time slots. So you might be wondering, why are we doing this? I mean, this feels like it's going to create some upheaval, and what's really the point behind this? Well, we have a lot of people who are a part of our church right now, and we never want to become a mile wide and an inch deep. Our mission as a church is to equip each person to become a disciple maker. Well, the skills needed to know how to follow Jesus as a disciple and how to help someone else become a disciple can really best be taught in smaller group settings. For example, it's very hard to teach good Bible study skills in a Sunday morning sermon setting. That really happens better in a smaller group setting. And that's just one example. You can't pray for each other and encourage each other while sitting in pews in the service as well as you can if you're in a smaller group. So we need to create more groups, more places for disciples to be equipped. And currently we have life groups and we have adult Sunday school classes where those could happen. It's a little bit easier to create additional adult Sunday school classes because they can include more people than a life group. But we need enough time in our Sunday school hour for those Sunday school classes to also include time of prayer requests and encouragement for one another and intentional fellowship. And so one of the ways that seems logical for us to increase the number of spaces we have for teaching and for intentional fellowship in our church is to create more Sunday classes. To do that, we need more building space. We currently have maxed out our classroom spaces on Sunday morning to the point where we have men meeting out in what used to be called the youth house, which is currently basically a storage closet. However, by utilizing our classrooms fully during both service hours instead of only using them during the 9:30 Sunday school hour, we can almost double our classroom capacity without any big building campaigns or spending millions of dollars on expanding the building. Also, by having classes meet over the normal worship service hours, we expand the time that classes have from 45 minutes to 75 minutes. So that creates the additional time for fellowship to occur, for prayer, maybe even for singing a hymn or two together. It really helps those classes become a little more like life groups where connection can happen. So here's some questions that might be running through your mind. Why only 15 minutes between services? Is that going to be enough time? Well, one of the reasons we didn't allow more time between our proposed service times is because it gets hard on our children's ministry workers. If you have half an hour between services, that's additional time that teachers are trying to figure out what to do with kids. And so 15 minutes may be a little short, we'll find out. But for now, out of kindness to our children's ministry workers, that's the plan, 15 minutes between the services. Another question that you might have is, will we have enough parking space? And that is probably one of the biggest unanswered questions regarding this change. We just really don't know how parking is going to work exactly until we try out this new format. We will likely need to sometimes use the grass along the tree-lined entrance to the church parking lot. And unfortunately, the township will not allow us to put down additional gravel. As many of you know, we are still in process with plans for a parking lot expansion. The price for that keeps going up, and so we have pressed pause to see if costs will come down a little bit in the next few months. But until then, we'll just have to figure out ways to make it work. Families who drive multiple vehicles on Sundays may need to think about how to drive only one vehicle, which we hope will be easier to do because we'll have a shortened Sunday morning schedule. Another question you might have is, why 8:30 and 10 o'clock for the service times? Why not 9 and 11? Well, overall, we felt that our current church culture would respond better in general to getting out early as opposed to starting later. Unlike most churches, we have quite a few people who actually really like their early morning service. This is the first church I've ever been a part of that has functioned that way. But that's one of the reasons why we're only moving the 8 a.m. service ahead by 30 minutes. And then another significant reason is that when the second service ends a bit prior to the noon lunch hour, people seem far more likely to hang around and talk with each other. We've noticed that the closer the second service gets out to noon, the faster people bolt out the doors. So we're envisioning that time between the second service and the lunch hour being time when those who don't have anywhere to go immediately after the service can hang out and talk. We also envision that potentially becoming a time for any additional meetings like children's ministry training meetings or usher team training meetings to happen. Did you know that right now our deacons actually meet at 6 a.m. on Sunday mornings? Wouldn't it be great if they could meet a little bit after that second service and not have to get here quite so early in the morning? So we also see that maybe life groups would want to meet and do lunch together after that second service. So there's all kinds of advantages to having a little bit of a gap between the second service and the lunch hour. So if you have kids, how will kids ministry change? Well, for kids up to age 5, nothing will change except for a shorter Sunday morning. Programming for kids who are in 1st through 4th grade will now be offered continuously during both service hours. So what that means is that parents will be able to drop their child off at Children's Church at 8:30 a.m. and pick them up at 11:15 a.m. after the second service without having to worry about picking them up in between services. You say, wait, I love it when my kids are with me in the service, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But a kids' church format is going to be offered during the 8:30 service hour, and we hope that eventually that time will include some musical worship. And then during the 10 o'clock service, Kids Sunday School will occur just like it currently does. Our kids' church serving teams are going to be more robust, Lord willing, as we'll be able to combine teams that are currently spread out over 2 kids' church hours. So hopefully that will increase the quality and also reduce some of the load on our volunteers during those kids' church hours. So for those of you who are wondering, will I still be able to have my kids with me during the worship service? Yes, absolutely. We're going to have something offered for your kids through both service hours all the way through so that mom and dad, you can attend a class or a worship service, either hour of your choice. But if whichever hour you choose to attend a worship service, you can have your kids with you during that first singing portion, just as you normally do. And then we will dismiss kids, but parents, you'll be responsible to take your kid back to the class. Teachers in Children's Church and Sunday School will just know to plan their class hour in such a way that kids will be coming in maybe about 20 minutes into the class hour after the worship service, after the singing portion of the worship service concludes. So those of you who have children in 5th grade through 12th grade, you're going to be most heavily impacted by this change because you'll have to think about which service hour programming for your 5th through 12th grader is offered. So you may be wondering, is this going to break up families? Are we going to be able to worship together? Our plan is that all of our demographic specific classes like youth group, men's class, women's class would be offered during the second service hour. So those of you with 5th through 12th grade kids, you'll attend worship service during the 8:30 a.m. hour, and then the family will be able to go to their various classes. The rest of you, if you have no kids or if you have kids 4th grade or under, you can pick either class hour. You may be wondering, how is my adult Sunday school class going to change? Well, since classes will now have 75 minutes, what we hope will not happen is that teachers will lecture for 75 minutes. What we're hoping is that each class hour will now include time for prayer and for getting to know each other and for fostering greater connection and deeper relationships in our church. So by creating physical space and time for medium-sized groups like our adult Sunday school classes to meet and to study out and to carry out Scripture's one another commands, we hope that will be strengthening our mutual discipleship of one another. That's the goal for those 75 minutes. The hope is that eventually every discipleship group, whether it's a life group, a Sunday class, a men's group, a women's group, they will all include prayer, Bible study, and connection. So you can come to a worship service, and then we want you to be connected with at least one other discipleship group in our church, whether it's a life group, a men's group, or a Sunday class, and that you'll get prayer, Bible study, and connection in those groups. Thank you, New Life, for your flexibility and your willingness to bend for the good of the body of Christ. We know that there will be some kinks to work out as we get into this. We know that there may be some bumps that we'll have to figure out, and we just ask for your prayers. Please pray with the staff and the elders that these changes will not only go smoothly, but will also accomplish our goals of greater fruitfulness in our discipleship. Thank you so much.